Another Marvel movie gets to release Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 3, but is it gonna be just like every other Marvel movie in Phase 4 and 5? Or are we actually gonna get something decent for a change? And why I need to be brutally honest with Marvel, let's see what the critics think. What's the story? In Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the Guardians, having survived the events of the previous MCU films, are living in nowhere in a state of low-key PTSD. That's particularly true for Peter Quill, who's still mourning the death of his Gamora. Then Adam Warlock, a killing machine genetically engineered and raised by Sovereign Leader Ayesha to destroy the Guardians, ends up surprising the gang and leaving Rocket near death. Nebula and Mantis discover that Rocket has a kill switch inside him that needs to be overridden if they want to save his life. So the whole gang, including Groot Drax, heads off to track down the code. Their search ultimately leads to the ultra-powerful High Evolutionary, who's trying to create utopian societies throughout the universe. Rocket's past and his connection to the High Evolutionary reveal how he came to be, what kind of creature he really is, and even how he got his name. Meanwhile, Peter must come to terms with the reality that the Gamora, who's from the other timeline introduced in Endgame, never lived through the love story he shared with the Gamora who died in Infinity War. I hope you subscribe to the channel. We get tired in every video from script to video editing. And I want to become 1,000 subscribers during this month. If you like the video, I hope you subscribe to the channel. And do not forget to put your likes for the video because it will help to reach other people. Is it worth watching? I want to be honest with you. I was not excited at first to watch the third season, and the reason for this is that the movie is produced by Marvel, and season 2 was not like the first season, but I said to myself, I have to try because this season is the last of the series. If you are confused about watching the movie, don't worry because I will mention to you why this movie is worth watching. 1. Something interesting that this movie does though, and you probably already know about this, is it spends a lot of time on Rocket, the raccoon played by Bradley Cooper, and this doesn't even feel like a spoiler. It feels like even the posters are trying to be like, hey, this one is about the raccoon, please pay attention to the raccoon. The raccoon is probably gonna die. And this focus is definitely my favorite part of the entire thing. I've always thought the raccoon was an elephant in the room. A raccoon in the room, you might say, because what the hell is he doing there? So it not only felt extremely satisfying to finally see a proper backstory for this character, but for the backstory to be the meat of the film, it surprisingly worked. 2. The High Evolutionary is played with maniacal fervor by Jacuti Uji, who delivers his perverted philosophy on perfection with an ice-cold cruelty. He is the worst, and he's easy to hate, because he's essentially animal cruelty personified. While his motivation and worldview are certainly something new to the MCU, his high-tech purple armor and blue energy powers have him looking a tad too much like Kang the Conqueror, another power-mad bad guy we just saw in Ant-Man and the WASP Quantumania. The High Evolutionary is an especially effective villain during the flashbacks, because we learn about his misguided search for perfection and watch him inflict his twisted science on Rocket, but he feels far less threatening in the present, largely because the stakes never reach a truly dangerous level. 3. The third thing is that James Gunn will be out of Marvel, so expect a good movie from James Gunn to end his career at Marvel. After all the points I mentioned, I advise you to watch the movie, but I want to be very honest about Marvel. I will tell you why I need to be brutally honest with Marvel, but after the positive points. Is it any good? Surprisingly heartfelt, this movie is the darkest and most personal of the 3 Guardians films, but also the most uneven. Writer-director James Gunn knows how to make this ragtag bunch work, but there's a layer of sadness that envelops the proceedings despite the many laugh-out-loud moments. On the one hand, this mission has the established camaraderie of the second movie, one of the most ruthless villains in the entire MCU. The High Evolutionary is memorably terrifying with his perfection obsession, and a decade-spanning soundtrack that includes everything from Radiohead's Creep and the Beastie Boys' No Sleep Till Brooklyn to Bruce Springsteen's Badlands and Florence and the Machine's Dog Days Are Over. On the other hand, the extensive flashbacks to Rocket's past, while illuminating, have such a different pace and character development that Vol 3 sometimes feels like two stories smushed together. The introduction of Adam Warlock is also uneven, and Poulter, who's a talented and funny actor, isn't given much to do except preen, kill, and whine for most of the movie. Then there's the Gamora factor, which is necessarily complicated because she's not the same Gamora audiences have grown to love. It's difficult to feel invested in this Gamora, and her presence is sometimes more unpleasant than humorous. Like Peter, many viewers are likely to miss the old Gamora too much to enjoy Saldana's performance here. Pratt knows how to continue to make Star-Lord lovable and messy and a bit of a wreck, and Cooper does a lovely job of conveying the trauma that Rocket experienced, as well as his core desire to belong to a found family. Bautista gets a great moment to shine when he forms a bond with a group of genetically engineered children, and Gillen's Nebula has her biggest role in the group to date, stepping up as a real leader. The visual effects focus on hybrid creatures created for potential utopias and sequences of violent whole-world destruction. The hybrids are purposefully uncanny and unsettling. It's unclear whether there will be more Guardians in the future now that Gunn has left the MCU, so this is a good time to enjoy his final contribution to the franchise, and be thankful for the questions he finally answered here. So why do I need to be brutally honest with C? Because why don't do a movie like this one, Marvel from the last 7 years, the good movies do not exceed 5, maybe every 2 years, Marvel produces a good movie, and the rest of the movies it produces are garbage. So I wish from all my heart, if all Marvel movies are like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I think that the most beautiful part when watching a movie is discussing the topic with other people. So tell me what you think about Ghosted. What did you like about the movie, and what did you hate about the movie? And how much do you give the movie out of 10? I will tell you in my rate at the end of the video. Is it any weak? I'm okay with darkness. I think that you can do tonal shifts in a franchise. I think that you can do tonal shifts inside of the same movie if you handle it well. But this movie isn't just dark. It is at times what I would call grim. So dour that it is often difficult for the movie to shift that tone. Between the darkness of some of these story elements and then the light humor banter stuff that we're used to from Guardians films, the tone is all over the place, and the shifts aren't always very well massaged. You really do have to work on those tonal shifts in order for them to work. And there are often other times where I feel like the movie is trying to make me feel something. Maybe even telling me how to feel, but it's just not quite connecting on some level. This is a very emotional film. It's a very emotionally resonant film, and a lot of those moments do work, but a lot of the other moments just feel odd, especially with how they're sequenced and presented in the movie. When a film is 2.5 hours, they should be able to find pockets in which they can sit in it a little longer and have the film flow. Many great films are that 2 to 2.5 hour mark because it allows room to sit in the motion. It allows the movie to breathe. However, in this film, they didn't allow any moments to breathe. They didn't allow you to sit in a scene for long enough to truly feel that emotion. And to me, that's just bad writing, because you're throwing so much at the table, too much to even put into a movie. They kind of pack in like a whole television season into a 2.5 hour movie. And to make a 2.5 hour movie feel not long enough to tell the story, you really messed up there in the writing, and that was a big problem for me by cutting between these scenes too fast, not allowing the movie to breathe and sit in some emotion for some extended periods of time. You stop feeling emotional together. So we got to the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Tell me how much your movie rate is. Peace.